Welcome to another episode of Bishop's Breakdown. You are tuning in to episode 28. So we're going to talk the go-home show for both Raw and SmackDown leading into Backlash. So we're going to talk about Backlash and my thoughts about that. And we're going to talk NBA Playoffs. You got Pistons, you got Cavs, you got Knicks, you got 76ers, you got Spurs, you got Thunder, you got Lakers, you got Wolves. We're going to talk about all those games and where I think the NBA Finals is going to head and where and who are going to be in those games, you know what I mean? And we're also going to do a retrospective of Ted Turner, who passed away a few days ago. R.I.P. Ted Turner. So that and more after the break. This is Bishop, and let's break it down. This episode is brought to you by W Energy, the clean energy drink mix built for gamers, creators, and grinders like us. No jitters, no crash, no artificial dyes, just smooth, long-lasting focus whenever I'm breaking down WWE storylines, debating NBA, or just recording late at night. It's zero sugars, packed with vitamins and nutrients, and it actually keeps you locked in without the shaky feeling. Head to w.gg and use code Bishop's Breakdown at checkout and save 10%. So level up your energy and let's get back to the breakdown. And thanks for supporting the show. Welcome back to the show. We're going to start with the go home show for Monday Night Raw. So let's start with the Judgment Day. Finn Balor's on one side, and then you got Liv, Raquel, Dirty Dom, JD, and Roxanne Perez. JD and Finn Balor had a match, great match. Before that, they were questioning Liv Morgan and Raquel, and them were questioning Roxanne's, her loyalty to the family of the Judgment Day. Because she knows that Finn Balor is the one that brought her in, and she be trusted. So fast forward to this match, and she used the hammer to hit him in the gut, and he gets beaten by JD. What is the end game, though? Is the Judgment Day is going to beat him up every week, and then he's going to come back and beat him, even though he already beat Dom at WrestleMania, which I thought was the end of it, but clearly not? Or does that mean Roxanne is faking her loyalty for Judgment Day, and she's a mole for Finn Balor, and then when they have a big match, and probably another Dirty Dom match, and boom, turns on them. But then what then? You know, Roxanne Perez with the Judgment Day, at least she's doing something. Roxanne with Finn Balor, same thing they've been doing with Finn Balor when he was by himself before the Judgment Day. Absolutely, positively nothing. So what's the point? Well, what are you going to get out of that? And that is the key question, because I don't even think the WWE knows exactly where they're going with this. And they just, week by week, like they used to do in the olden days with Vince McMahon and his stooges behind him, just doing the do. And then they'll figure it out later. They claim they have months and months and years planned out in advance. Now for every storyline, I guarantee it. It's probably for the big ones, for the Romans, for the Seths, for the Codys. They got most of those kind of planned out based on, things change based on injuries or people leaving or whatever. But I don't think the lower to mid card people are planned out far in advance. They just playing it by ear, and that is what scares me about this whole Judgment Day thing, because they're running on fumes with this group. It's like the MFTs. I mean, if you look at the MFTs, they down 2 members, and they seem to be doing nothing and nothing fast. They just on the show just to be on the show. Might as well be in catering while you at it. And then we got the Oba Femi Open Challenge, which it gives people him every week so they can do the strut and and see the ruler, and then feed them people like the Otises and the Tozawas and all the people in catering. They just say, all right, you up. But sooner or later, he's going to have to do something big and better, like a I mean, you don't go from Brock Lesnar and just killing jobbers. He had to go after Roman. SummerSlam, Roman, Oba, because as we've seen later, he's still going to be champion for a while. A lot of people say, "Oh, here's a good thing. Maybe Punk will get his win back, and Roman will have the title for a year." And then at WrestleMania, CM Punk wins the Royal Rumble, challenges Roman, and finally has his WrestleMania moment and beats Roman and ends the show holding the title high. And sure. I mean, that's fine. That works for me. But I don't think he's going to have the title that long. I think Oba's going to beat him at SummerSlam. Or he doesn't beat him and Brock Lesnar's just faking the retirement and shows up and F5s the crap out of him behind the ref's back and Roman just spears him and boom, boom, boom. But then what? You know what I mean? So let's go with the division. You got Seth Rollins, you got Joe Hendry, you got the Street Profits, and they're just, bleh. I get it. You got Braun Breaker on one side. You got Seth Rollins. They got beef. You got Logan Paul and Austin Theory and Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, Street Profits, tag titles. Boom. Where does that leave Joe Hendry? Joe Hendry seems to be beefing with Logan Paul. So if Logan Paul's over here beefing with Joe Hendry, but he's also beefing with the Street Profits, with his tag team partner Austin Theory. And then you got over there, and you got Braun Breaker, and you got Seth Rollins. And they were really missing Bronson Reed. I know he's hurt, but then you can, move things around, and Logan Paul can concentrate on Joe Hendry, and then Bronson Reed, Austin Theory can take care of the Street Profits. But as of right now, Joe Hendry's just there singing songs, firing Logan Paul, And I love me some Joe Hendry. I'm going to tell you that Joe Hendry is, I believe, for sure. But they need to give him something concrete and not just be a tag-along person. I mean, doggone it, he's a former NXT champion, former TNA World Heavyweight champion, and he should be a champion. Maybe not the World Heavyweight or the WWE Championship right now, but there's mid-card titles that Joe Hendry could elevate. Just look at Trick Williams. He did the same thing, TNA, NXT, and now he's the United States champion. Well, give Joe Hendry the Intercontinental. So what? Right there. See that one over there? Yeah, give it to Joe Hendry because I believe and what I don't think he can do any worse than most people that they just gave titles to. Hello, Austin Theory. I'm just saying. So Then I think AAA, their big show that's coming up, they're going to have a great match that I'm so looking forward to. I'm so glad they didn't waste it on night 1 or night 2 of WrestleMania. But it's going to be the original El Grande Americana versus the other El Grande Americana for mask versus mask. So either way, somebody's going to get exposed and it's going to be, spoiler alert, Chad Gable, original, and Ludwig Kaiser is the other one. Duh. So which one's going to lose? I'm thinking the original's going to lose and Chad Gable can get back to being Chad Gable. But knowing how WWE, and I don't know how much influence they have down there, but I think a lot. Because you look at who is their heavyweight champion, Dirty Dom. He loses all the time up on WWE, but he's still the heavyweight champion, which diminishes your championship. So clearly WWE has the pants on in this relationship. So I'm thinking Ludwig Kaiser's going to lose. He's going to be unmasked. You're going to see that Tyler Bates and Pete Dunne and his compadres. And they're going to still be a trio, but without the mask. And then sooner or later, they're going to unmask the original El Grande and then move on. Move on in the world. So that's what I think is going to happen. So if you think I'm crazy, comment below. Let me know that I'm doo-hoo. But hey, sometimes you overthink these WWE things because, it's just wrestling. But that's what we do, and that's what people love to hear. So that's my thoughts, and that's what it is. Now we had the usual contract signing for the main event of Backlash. You got Roman Reigns, the World Heavyweight Champion. Put the ones up, and then you got the werewolf himself, Jacob Fatu. You know what I mean? All gas, no, saying no brakes. Fatu, that guy. But once again, Roman's, you're not really prepared. I don't know what you're gonna do. I'm the man. You a boy, And then Jacob was like Tonga Deathlock and threw his OTC head of the table through a table. Granted, the table didn't break, but it still looked like it hurt because it didn't break. Like it hurt. Boom! Like it was, and I'm like, oh, it's supposed to break, but it didn't break, and that's how we go off the show, which is another reason. But we're gonna get to the main event of Backlash once we get through SmackDown, and I'll tell you my thoughts on the mini matches. I think there was 5. So, all right, SmackDown. You got. So, Jacob comes out, blah, 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 Usos, blah, 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 blah. You're going to lose on tomorrow, and, I'm going to win, whatever, stupidness. And is Jay a heel, or the crowd's just dumb, or he comes out, they don't come out to the crowd no more, they don't wrestle, really. Is one of them hurt? Maybe. They don't help Roman when he getting beat up and thrown through tables and choked out. So I don't know what they just come out and yell at Jacob, says you're dumb and stop trying, and acknowledge your tribal chief and move on to the side because this ain't your place. And then they come out through the crowd, or not come out. They come out through the ramp with the crowd going, doing their yeet things, and no reaction by the wrestlers to acknowledge the audience like he has been. Look, he don't do that no more. He don't go on top rope and do it with them. He just kind of just there. So what are they doing? A lot of people hated the whole yeet thing and the entrance and all that, and then he don't do it, and the crowd's doing it now. It just look dumb. So sooner or later, the crowd's gonna be like, "Well, I'm not going to be the only ones to do it, so I'm just gonna sit on my hands." You know what I mean? So I whatever. And then Gunther's in the back talking, with Paul Heyman talking about this contract or something. I don't know. And my boy Nick Aldis was like, you weren't supposed to be you a Raw super blah, blah, blah. The brands don't mean nothing. People come to Raw, people go to SmackDown, they beat up people, and they go back home and be like, I don't know what y'all thought. I wasn't even there. That wasn't even me, bro. Stupidness. Then while he's standing there, he's like, and Cody's music, he's like, that's my time. Whatever. So Paul was like, I'll handle this. Is he an advocate? Whatever. And then he comes out and interrupts Cody and says, blah, blah, blah. And Cody's like, you lost everybody. Tribal Chief don't want you. CM Punk don't want you. Seth Rollins don't want you. You are unwinnable. Brock Lesnar left you like a scorned woman and just gone. And saying, and he was like, worry about you. And then Paul's like, no, you worry about you. You the one that might need their help. And Gunther's got a title match. I don't know how. Last I checked, Paul Heyman ain't GM. That's his favor. But what? In storyline, I get it. He has pull in the back. But storyline on TV, the way the show's been showed, Paul Heyman has no power over the higher ups. Because every time him and Adam Pearce was getting into it, he was like, blah, blah, blah. And he was like calling people, trying to rat him out, calling Triple H and people. But he was, so when did he get this power? I thought he might have had it when the Tribal Chief had both titles, like those. And, boom, Tribal Chief, 13, 16, number of days as champion. But that made more sense because of who he was with. But he ain't with nobody. You know what I'm saying? He was with Brock. Brock's gone. He was with CM Punk. That ruined. He was with the Tribal Dead. So what? What? And why does Nick always be like, okay? You know, like, does he, what does he, I wish they just had one thing, be like, all right, he talked to Triple H, and Triple H agreed that Cody needs his revenge, and the only way they can do that fairly or whatever is Gunther would like agree with it if the title's on the line. Boom. But the way it seemed like he got some dirt on Triple H, like he has a whole portfolio of discriminating video and pictures of Stephanie McMahon or something. I don't know, but it don't make no sense. It's like, well, sure, Gunther, Cody at Clash, sure. You know, that's over in the Europeans of the worlds, and Gunther is a Europeans from the world and home field advantage, and sure. And again, another week, where's Randy? He punt kicks him, and he gone. Kind of like CM Punk. CM Punk hasn't been seen since WrestleMania, and he gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, Randy Orton gone. Is he hanging out with Pat McAfee, licking their wounds? Because I thought he was going to get a rematch at Backlash, but clearly Cody not defending his title at Backlash. So, and then the dumbest thing on Friday, especially, I guess they're just tone deaf or something. I don't know. R.I.P. Ted Turner. That's how the start screen happened. And then they have a funeral for the gingerbread man. They were talking about it all show long. You had, I don't know where these people came from with black suits on and women crying, looking at the coffin, and the gingerbread man sitting there with his gumdrop buttons and blah 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 and crying, and you got Sammy saying this is ridiculous. Yeah, it's pretty dumb. And then you got R-Truth saying, I see the resemblance. Okay, okay. We all get it. Sami Zayn looks like a ginger, and that's a gingerbread man. I get it. Dumbest thing ever, especially because Trick Williams doesn't need this comedy to get over. He just that talented. Look at his run as TNA World Title or champion. Look at his run as the NXT champion. Look at his just run in general when he was the mouthpiece for Carmelo Hayes. Just look how he turned a phrase, whoop that trick, to a point that is vibrating the walls, the ceiling, the world, the cameras when he comes out. But you want to have a gingerbread. Granted, it turned out to be a ruse, and Lil Yachty was underneath the thing. Was he there the whole time? Because that's weird. Was he taking a nap for 5 hours? That's weird. But then they jump Sammy, beat him up, and because they got a match at Backlash. Just dumb. Just so dumb. I'm looking at it, and when the credits roll, I'm like, why are we doing this? What does this accomplish? The gingerbread man. And his little eulogy to the gingerbread man was, what? This is what you want to do with Trick Williams, and then you wonder why talent don't ever get over. Because now you're making him a joke. Gingerbread man? A funeral for a fairy tale character who, last I checked, had his arms ripped off, and it looked like he was a robot. Or a huge action figure that you would buy or win at a fair by throwing darts at balloons. That's what you're going to do on the go-home show of SmackDown. You're going to do a funeral for the gingerbread man. That is absolutely, without a doubt, the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire... It'll reset memories, okay? Maybe not my entire life, because I've seen some dumb things on WWE TV and in real life, but let's stick to pro wrestling. Like, what? Gingerbread man? That's how you're going to try to get Trick Williams over as a champion, as a dominant champion, by having them do a ruse with a gingerbread man with a fairy tale character? What's next? With the Wicked Witch of the West? Snow White? Some dwarves? Well, we're going to get to them later, actually. Anyways, so let's talk Backlash. it was way more. Okay, it wasn't a great show. It was fine, but it was more consistent in wrestling than WrestleMania Night 1 was, for sure. It wasn't better than Night 2, but it was AB. Because Trick Williams versus Sami Zayn, love that match. That match was dope. That's the good. Roman Jacob, great match. Not really sure why at the end of the match he gets beat up and left laying by Jacob Fatu. Now what? Does he get another title shot at Clash? Is that what we're doing? Like, you're going to keep having this feud on for a couple months? And everyone's saying on the internet, yeah, because the Usos are going to turn on Roman and side with Jacob. Why? Jay still salty about getting beat at SummerSlam in Detroit a few years ago? Getting pushed around by Roman constantly? We already seen this. If they turn on Roman again, we already seen this. And then what? Roman's going to go away. If he loses the title, he don't need to be there because he's not going to be there every week just not being champion, just being a guy. Like, he's going to be back to what he was doing before WrestleMania, before he won the title, and showing up hit or miss. Because he got other things that he can do, movies and stuff. So I still think he's going to keep the title until SummerSlam. And like I said, Obafemi. That's how and then he can do whatever he wants. But Jay and Jimmy turning on Roman that helped Jacob Fatu become the world heavyweight champion just seems dumb to me. But knowing WWE, they're pretty dumb. So they might do some dumb things like that. Now, and then another good, Io Sky versus Asuka. I know a lot of people, me included, thought this was a perfect way to bring Kairi Sane back because there's been a lot of backlash, no pun intended, to bring her back from getting fired because she was so involved with this rivalry that the only true winner in this is for Kairi to come out and help Io beat Asuka. Or stop Asuka from doing, dirty tactics to beat Io Sky. And finally standing up to Asuka and then boom, boom, boom. But she blocked the miss with Corey Graves' or Wade Barrett's or Michael Cole's or don't know whose binder it was, but opened the binder and boom, you dummy. And then she wins. And then I'm thinking, all right, here it comes. Asuka's going to start beating on her because she's so mad that she lost. You beat me. And then that's when Kairi Sane comes out and beats up and gives the elbow. And then she looks at her and hugs her and tears in Asuka's eyes. And now I'm thinking maybe that was Asuka's final match. And after all these people being let go, like the Kairi Sanes, and she's like, there's nothing more for me to do here, so I'm hanging up the boots. That's what it looked like to me. Because she broke character, man. Like, she's supposed to be a evil heel who hates Io for turning her back on her because she's her teacher and she sided with Rhea and now her and blah, blah, blah. And she got beaten and why would she hug her and cry and stuff? So that's why it adds up to goodbye, and that sucks because Asuka is dope. If you don't believe me, search bar Asuka matches. She's really dang good, especially before WWE. So let's go to the bad, and if you don't know what bad I'm talking about, let's go with Miz and Kit Wilson versus Danhausen and a mystery opponent. Now, everybody had their thoughts. They said, oh, John Cena, because he was there, comes out of retirement and helps Danhausen. No. But sure. Jelly Roll. He was supposed to have a tag match penciled in for him and Cody versus Randy and Pat McAfee, but clearly Pat McAfee stepped away, so that canceled. So I was like, Jelly Roll ain't had doing nothing, and him and Miz and Kit, they got some beefs. So sure, that's a good one. Like literally anybody. Maybe it was CM Punk because him and Danhausen are friends. He calls him Pepsi Phil. So, nope. That's none of those people. Nope. Couldn't get nobody. Ooh, you could even did this. Play John Cena's music and nobody comes out. And you just tag by yourself and you have the Invisible Man. Sure. Danhausen, comedy character, Miz, Kit, comedy characters. Invisible Man, sure. Okay? But nope. Nobody guessed this. So he has little people. He cloned a mini-me. And I was like, oh. That's dumb. And then I'm thinking like, he was going to come out and then he gets taken out and then the real partner would come out. Maybe Royce Keys or Obafemi. I don't know. Somebody. Anybody. But no. When Kit Wilson threw him in the battle, like, yeah, this is going to be the real one. This is going to be the real one. The machine was going off and doors open and like 30 of them dudes come out. And 7 Dwarfs. And they come out and beat up on Kit Wilson. Isn't that a disqualification? Sure, whatever. And then he gets back in the ring and Danhausen wins. But why? And that kicked off the show. Why? I mean, I like Danhausen. He's very entertaining. But this is how you want people to pay $30 a month for this? If I didn't already have a cable provider that already had ESPN, so I get a part of my other stuff, the stuff I actually, want to pay for on Hulu Live, so I can watch my sports, basketball, football, all that stuff. And watch PLEs, part of the little package. And this is what y'all offer. This is what you're going to bring out. Little people who dress like Danhausen, like you did the entrance. WrestleMania, when it came out. Or something. John Cena. So, what? I don't know. Like, you had opportunity to at that point, like when I was seeing them, I was like, man, where is Jelly Roll? Never thought I would say that about a wrestling event. Where is my Jelly Roll? Or like I call him, the Danish Roll, because, he's smaller. Munchkin Roll. There you go. Huh. They could have had that. That would have made it more funny. But no. They could have had him dressed like Jelly Roll come out and he's like, I thought, oh well. And then, thrown boom, opens up and the real Jelly Roll comes out. Ref comes like, I can't tell you, he just grew up. He grew up, he grew up real fast. Boom. But no. That took me 30 seconds to come up with. But no. This is what? He might as well have been by himself. So dumb, man. Like, and you wonder why people don't want to spend thousands of dollars to attend these events when this is the garbage you put on TV. Why would I want to spend extra money to see it live? I used to love going to live shows, but I'm not spending an arm, a leg, a kidney, a heart, a lung, a brain, a blood, nothing. Firstborn to go to Raw or SmackDown or PLEs because this is the garbage they want. Like, Raw's coming to Detroit soon. I want to go. But now if you, A, have this garbage on TV still, and B, you charge me arm and leg. I'm trying to go live tweet, add some things to the channel, but you got to stop making me feel dumb and embarrassed to watch this crap. Non-wrestling fans watch this stuff and be like, you watch that? Yes. Yes, I do. Religiously. For at least 25, 30 years. Yes. I collect belts. Grown man collecting belts. Watching wrestling. And proud of it, but it's kind of hard to be proud of it when you get matches like this on a relatively good show. Usually Backlash is a rehash of WrestleMania, but it seemed a lot fresher than WrestleMania. Matches that weren't there. Like, I thought there was going to be AJ Lee, Becky Lynch rematch. I thought there was going to be a Cody versus Randy Orton match, but we didn't do any of that for Backlash. We consolidated, put a few matches on the card, and gave every single, even the Danhausen tag match had more time than most matches on WrestleMania night 1 and night 2. So that's the recipe for success. But you got to do a better better effort to build these matches so they make sense. So people aren't saying why Danhausen can't get a partner. Thought everybody loved Danhausen. He got human monies. And that's what he gets. That's what you give him. That should have been, nope. That didn't get me excited for the rest of the night, even though most of the matches, like all of them other ones, were fantastic bangers. But if I was just tuning in for the first time on some recommendation from a friend, I would have been like, turn on, turn off, watching literally anything else. So WWE going to do better, because it's playoff time. Sooner or later, you know what's coming. In a few short months, football is going to be back on TV. And between watching Monday Night Football and watching Monday Night Raw, I might have to tune to ESPN and watch that Monday Night Football game and watch Raw later. You want me to watch Raw live? Give me something better to watch, better to look forward to. And I'll watch Monday Night Football later. I'll record that and watch Raw live. But at this point, it's going to be the other way around. I'm going to watch you after the fact. And fast forward through all these ads and commercials that you put on me with the Netflixes. Do better, WWE and TKO. Do better. Hey everyone, it's Bishop. I got something special for you today. On the next bonus episode, I'm breaking down the top 4 teams in college basketball, giving you my insider's take and predictions you won't hear anywhere else. Plus, I'll dive into Vince Russo and John Cena's AEW talk and why he's crazy. No fluff, just straight analysis. This episode is exclusive to my Patreon supporters. For just a few bucks a month, you got bonus episodes like this, exclusive merch, and even a chance to ask me questions directly on a live Q&A session. So if you want in, join the crew now. The link will be in the description, and I'd love to have you on board and make sure you never miss the inside scoop. So break that down. So let's talk NBA playoffs. Pistons, Cavs. They've already played 3 games, and the Pistons look dominant in the first 2 games. Like, they should have beat them each time by 20 or more, but they let them keep coming back and sticking around. But in the end, they came out with the victory, which is not a long-term way of winning games, because it's only going to get harder as you move along the rounds. But they went to Cleveland and threw up an egg. Like, James Harden, like, he's not a playoff Madonna. He's not a playoff star, king, none of that stuff. He's mediocre at best during the playoffs, and he performed high level that I didn't see from James Harden since the Rocket days, maybe some of those early round games. But the Cavs put up numbers, And there was no stopping them from getting that W, no matter how hard the Pistons tried. They tried to keep it close, and they got it close, and then all of a sudden, Cade decided to turn the ball over like 5 times in a row. Like, literally, go back and watch the final minutes of the game, and he literally turned the ball over like 3 times in a row. That is not going to be a victory for success in late game situations when the game is within reach. You can't turn the ball over. Now when you got hot shooters on the other side like the Donovan Mitchells and James Hardens and Struces. So they need to wake up and win tonight to go back to Detroit up 3-1 to be able to close out the game in Game 5. Because if they lose and go back to Detroit 2-2, it's anybody's series then. They need to put the pedal to the metal and put some pressure on Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, because I don't think Harden can handle the pressure in the playoffs, because he hasn't done it in the past. Clearly, he's a 0-time NBA champion. So that's my take on that, and I think the boys can be able to perform because they need to get one in Cleveland, and they need to do it now. They can't wait to Game 6 to do that, because then it's anybody's game, and then you got to go back Game 7. Like, it's especially since the next game I'm talking about is the Knicks and 76ers, and the New York Knicks clearly not cursed by Danhausen no more. He lifted that curse because they swept the crap out of Joel Embiid, Paul George, VJ, Tyrese Maxey of the 76ers, and told them go home. You're out of here. Like when I forgot the game was on the other night, yesterday or whatever, and I turned on the game, and it was fourth quarter, and they were up by 40, and none of their starters were in a playoff closeout game. The Sixers didn't have none of their starters in either. They gave up. It's like season's over because they were down by 40. Lopsided. Yeah. Lopsided as heck. So the Knicks are just going to be hanging out. So they want the Pistons and Cavs to go 7 games, because the more games they go, the more rest that their older bodies, like the Jalen Brunson, or veteran bodies who's been grinding all year long to get more healthy. 100% Jalen Brunson, Cat. They a heart. Like they don't need. They're gonna use this rest, and they're gonna if they play like they've been playing, especially against the Philadelphia 76ers, they go into the finals. It's a wrap. So the Pistons need to close out this series as soon as possible to take the momentum to the Knicks, because they're gonna if they take it to the Knicks, if it's Pistons, Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, home court still goes to the Pistons. So Game 1, Game 2 in Detroit, and that's what they need. If the Cavs end up beating the Pistons and going against the Knicks, then the Knicks are going to the finals. Enough said. I still think it's a 7-game series if the Pistons match up against the Knicks, the way the Knicks have been playing. And then let's move to another sweep that's possible tonight. LeBron James, Lakers, without Luka still. They got Austin Reeves back, but no Luka against Shai and the defending NBA champions, the Oklahoma Thunder, who are 1 game away from going back to the Western Conference Finals, back-to-back years. And I don't see them not winning. LeBron could put up 40, and I still think they're going to lose, because the Thunder are a better team than the Lakers at this point. They need Luka, but they ain't going to get Luka. Where I've seen it with the rumors I heard, that the only way that Luka is going to be able to play in this playoffs is maybe if they get to the NBA Finals. That's a lot. That's a long time from now. That's June. Another month, their season's going to be over. Like LeBron's going to have to dip in his time machine, go back and get the old LeBron. Not saying that he's not as good as he was back then, but they need the 60-point LeBron James who took the Cavs to the NBA Finals. That's what he needs to make this a series, to take it 7 games. Because they're down 3-0, and looks like they're going to lose tonight. Get blown out again. And then we're going to have a whole offseason saying, is LeBron going to stay another year? And then the other Western Conference game that people have been talking about is Victor elbowing Nas Reed. I've seen the video. I've seen many angles. And they said that the reason they gave him the flagrant 2 is because he aimed for above the neck. That dude is 10 feet tall. His elbows is neck region. Like his neck, his head goes to his chest. But I guess, they say that he aimed for it. The way it looked like he just tried to box out like they taught me when I was playing basketball back in the day. To box out, get out of the way if you don't want to get hit in the throat, But breaking news, he's not going to get suspended, so he's going to be for Game 5, which is the Spurs better say thank you, NBA gods, because no Victor. I mean, they lost Victor early. I think it was like the second quarter, and they lost to even the series 2-2. They need Victor to win this series because Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert, they're playing with, and Julius Randle, they're playing with inspired ball, and they're like, we're going to take it to these Spurs because they're young and we're going to take them down. So they need the unicorn Victor. So Victor Wemby, and that's that. That's where this finals I see coming. The way it's been right now, the way the teams are playing right now, it's looking Knicks Thunder in NBA Finals. Not what I want. I'd rather have Pistons Spurs. But I'm a homer, so that's what I want. But the way the games have been playing lately, because it's all about momentum today, not what you did yesterday. And the Knicks look like a inspired team, and the Thunder looks unstoppable, especially if the Wolves can take out the Spurs, because the Spurs are the Thunder's kryptonite, as you've seen during the regular season. If the Spurs go to the Eastern Conference or Western Conference Finals against the Thunder, my pick is the Spurs in 6. But if the Wolves pull out this thing, then it's nothing but a thing for this Oklahoma City Thunder to go back-to-back finals and maybe, just maybe, back-to-back NBA champions. Shaw's going to be a 2-time NBA champion if things work out the way they seem to be working out. And that's about the NBA playoffs. So the elephant in the room this week, we're going to do a retrospect. Just a little bit of tidbit information, a little bit of history, like history class, about the late, great Ted Turner. Not only did he founded CNN, he also founded the Ted Turner broadcast system, which is TBS and TNT, those channels that most of y'all have watched and enjoyed over the years. Fun fact, there was a cartoon back in the day in the 90s called Captain Planet. He created that show to raise awareness for environmental, awareness, to get people about pollution and watch the show and you'll see all the villains were polluting the world, throwing oil in the water and blah, blah, blah. And Captain Planet got use together, earth, wind, fire, whatever. And then they call the Planeteers and they put the rings up and they say their thing, Earth. And then they, with your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. That show. That show was created by Ted Turner. Didn't know that till today. But Ted Turner also bought WCW, which was the Crockett promotion in the 1980s, 1988. But under his ownership, he had WCW, Nitro, and Thunder and all that televised on his channels, the TBSs and the TNTs, like I said earlier. And under his ownership, with his billions, is why they could get the Hulk Hogan's and the the Kevin Nashes and the Scott Halls and keep Stings and have Ric Flair and Macho Man Randy Savage and all these builders, Bret Hart, builders of the WWE or WWF at the time, to jump ship and make instant impacts and promise them the world, promise them their own control of their character, like Hulk Hogan and Nash and NWO. Remember the NWO for life, and he helped create that boom. Without Ted Turner and what he was providing, because he was a wrestling fan, he was a pro wrestling fan, and with his money and Eric Bischoff and all this, and basically saying, you do what you want with my money, but make sure it's entertaining and make sure we beat those guys up north. And that's what they did. They created they helped create the Monday Night Wars between Raw and Nitro. Nitro will come on at an hour before. Watch that. People were flipping back and forth. Sometimes Nitro will be like, hey, don't tune on to the other guys because they're going to do, well, and they spoiled Mick Foley becoming WWE champion because there was a taped show. And they already seen the results. So they was like, hey, you want to go see Mick Foley? Mankind winning the championship? When we're about to have blah, 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 blah next. And that worked because they beat the brakes off of WWF for 83 straight weeks. I mean, without Ted Turner, none of that was possible. None of it. Like, you wouldn't have Monday Night Wars. You might not have had the Attitude Era, how it was used. You might not have had Stone Cold Steve Austin as popular as he was because they weren't really ready to push people to the heights and let them do extreme things like The Undertaker hanging Stephanie McMahon from a cross, burning cross or something like that. And, Triple H, dead bodies, and Mae Young giving birth to hands, and the baby daddy is Secular Chocolate, Mark Henry, and The Rock, and Nation of Domination, and then DX making fun of him, and then Owen Hart doing blackface, and all this stuff that Vince wouldn't do because he didn't want to rock the boat, but he seen that WCW was beating the crap out of him in the ratings, and that's money. And without him doing whatever it took to get over that hoop to bring fans back, he wouldn't have done the Attitude Era. In my honest opinion, there wouldn't have been an Attitude Era if it wasn't for WCW and Ted Turner's money. So if you don't appreciate what Ted Turner provided, imagine without Ted Turner, there might not even been a WWE. The boom during that time, during the Monday Night Wars, with packed crowds and ratings through the roof. Man, to get a quarter of this, of what they used to get in the 90s during Monday Night Wars, Triple H and TKO are begging to get just a half of that right now. If they were getting ratings like they got during the Attitude Era, I don't think they will have a money issue or say they have a money issue. There'll be no budget cuts because they will be making so much dang money from that, from the way the boom was, the way wrestling was everywhere. You've seen people who didn't even know wrestling or watch wrestling but had Austin 316 shirts on, had DX doing the chops in school because. And this is without YouTube. This is without TikTok. This is without Twitters and X's and Facebooks and MySpace and Instagrams and Threads and all these apps that you provide, smartphones. This is all just watching the news, watching people who have seen the WWE or WWF and doing those things to their friends. They're like, what's that? And they tell them, and boom, another fan. So just think of that. Think of what Ted Turner brought to the table with his influence, because that man deserves to be honored for all that. All of it. And I appreciate him, and RIP, rest in peace. But before we get to that, due to the merger with AOL, Time Warner, that merger, he lost all his influence, like in his own company, because the merger had a board and they said, "Yeah, that's nice, Ted, but we're not gonna waste money on this wrestling." And Eric Bischoff tried to buy it, and they said, "No, we don't want you. Nope, not enough." And then Vince heard of it or got told it, and that it was available, and he bought it, and it got sold to the WWE in 2001. That was the end of WCW because Vince killed it after that. And he won. Him and Ted Turner were like beefing left and right. Boom, boom. But I'm sure Vince McMahon appreciates Ted Turner, and it was a sad day when he passed away May 6th at the age of 87. So rest in peace. So that's the show for this week, episode 28. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I appreciate every likes. I appreciate every subscription, every follow I get on the X's and TikToks and my YouTube. Hit that notification button up top because I'm be dropping videos left, right, straight, backwards, all that. Anytime I get a new card from One Piece, wrestling, basketball, baseball, football, I like to open them and share the world, whether I get hits or absolute nothing. Because I'm just putting out content because opening packs, providing a service to the masses is what I love to do. So I appreciate y'all. So keep supporting me, and I'll keep giving you content because the more likes I get, the more content I can make. And I want to make more things. And I'm definitely trying to get into the interview space. So if you know anybody from U of M, from a sports team, from WWE, from TNA, AEW, Ring of Honor, reach out to your boy at bishopsbreakdown@gmail.com. And I got you. And I'll reach out and let's do something. We can do it through Zoom. We can do it in person. Whatever it is, I'm willing to do whatever it takes just to say, have conversations with some of the people in the sports world. So with that being said, like a great man once said, deuces. Ooses. I'm out.